Hello there.
And welcome to the channel. Today we're going to have a look at Vecna, or also known as the Lich, from D&D, or some of you might know him from Stranger Things. Now, Vecna is quite a complicated killer, so I'll just give you the TLDR version of his power. Essentially, he's got 4 spells that he can cast. One is a sphere that detects survivors and disables magic items. One is a projectile, or more accurately 5 projectiles that damage survivors, but they can kind of crouch under them so they don't get hit. The next one is flight, which just makes him fly across the map very speedily, and he can ignore vaults, but fly will end after he passes through a vault. And the last spell that he has is Mage Hand, which just holds up pallets or can pick up pallets, and that can be quite useful in chase. As for the magic items, survivors can search chests that spawn on the map, and these chests will give them magic items that help them in fighting Vecna. So that is something to keep in mind if you want to play him, because they can usually interfere with his power by aura reading or giving them haste in certain situations. Now, as for the build, we're going to mainly focus on Franklin's Demise in combination with Weave Attunement. Since the nerf, it's not that good anymore, but it's still very powerful, especially on Vecna. Franklin's Demise makes it so that once you hit a survivor with your basic attack, they have to drop their item, and you can see the item's aura, and Weave Attunement makes it so that every survivor within 12 meters of the dropped item will reveal their aura to you, which is quite good, because if you hit all 4 survivors, they all had items, now their items are on the ground and you have permanent aura reading within 12 meters of each of these items. It's very, very good because it forces survivors to pick up their items and take them to the edge of the map, or just not pick them up anymore, because otherwise they might get aura red all the time, which is obviously bad for them. If they do pick up their items, they will suffer from the Oblivious status effect, which means they won't hear your terror radius, so that's something to keep in mind as well, even though it's not the main aspect of the power. The next part of the build is Friends Till the End. It makes it so that whenever you hook a survivor, you will see your Obsession's aura for 10 seconds and they will be exposed for 20 seconds. This perk works exceptionally well with your flight spell, because you can just scoot across the map and maybe even one-shot down your Obsession just after you've hooked another survivor. If you hook your Obsession, however, you will only see another survivor on the map randomly scream and become the new Obsession. And the last perk that we're going to use is Corrupt Intervention, just because it forces survivors to bunch up in the early game and work on generators together, which gives you a lot of pressure. If you can pressure multiple survivors off a generator, it's usually always a good thing. The add-ons that we're going to run are Boots of Speed and Trickster's Glove. Trickster's Glove makes it so that the Mage Hand holds up a pallet for a bit more, and Boots of Speed makes it so that when we use Mage Hand, we will get a little bit of a haste status effect, which together will make it easier to get hits on the pallets. Okay, let's dive into some gameplay, and stick around for the end, because honestly the last game was quite funny and I didn't expect it to go that way. So the game starts, it's the Groaning Storehouse, which is a huge map, but I kind of like it, even though it's not the best for killer. I start the game by casting the sphere, just to try and find some survivors, and so that I don't have to check that way. I look inside the main building, nobody here, and then I make my way to the block generators, because usually survivors spawn close to the block generators because they are usually the furthest away from you. And then I see Talitha and I try to get her, try to cut her off with flight, but she plays it well, she just keeps running. I use Mage Hand prematurely here, so it's kind of a waste, and I try to double back, but she outplays me, and she even dodges the Flight of the Damned and gets a stun on me. So I take the pallet, and then I leave her, because I don't want to waste any more time. So I see Lara here. Lara also gets a stun on me, which is fine. Getting pallets out of the way is good, because it creates a dead zone that will be beneficial later. She blinds me, which is not the worst, and then she goes here. I ready Mage Hand, even though it's not off cooldown, and since she hesitates here, I get a hit. She drops her item so I can see her aura. I use Mage Hand to block the pallet, and then get a hit on her. So now I pick her up, and as you can see, there's Talitha running across the map to try and get a save. She fails the save, so I was lucky there, and I get Laura on the hook. Then I try to hit Talitha with the Flight of the Damned, which she dodges, and so she takes me on a little bit of a ring around the rosy here at Shack. So what I do now is I fake as if I was going to cut her off, vaulting the window, but I don't, and then she doesn't make the vault, gets hit. She does use Shack Pallet here to stun me and blind me, which is okay. Getting Shack Pallet out of the way early is really good. And then I try to cut her off using Flight, and she does something very smart here. She does not vault the window, so when I vault it with Flight, it means that she can just run the other direction and use my cooldown to get lots of distance. So I leave her here, I cast the sphere in order to see if somebody's there, and then I see that the unhook happens. Flight is not off cooldown yet, and Talitha tries to get my attention again, but I ignore her, and I go for the other two girls here. I cast Flight of the Damned, but they both crouch and dodge it, and so I try to get V. V kind of runs into me here, which was not a good move by her, and then she appears to have given up and just uses her little instrument. So what I do is I let her lie here and try to get another hit on Talitha. So I chase her around this little part of the building. She doesn't really have any options, and she gets hit here and downed next to V. Now both are lying down. I pick up V, and she's the first to go on a hook. There's Lara there, she's trying to get a flashlight save, but I just look away, so not really what she was hoping to do here. And then I go back to Talitha and try to pick her up. I see somebody coming there, so I cast Flight of the Damned to kind of scare the mag away. And now I pick up Talitha after casting this sphere to try and see if there's any survivors that want to flashlight save. So now Talitha is going to go on the hook that Lara was on before. In the meantime, V gets unhooked, and so I turn my attention back to them. I use Flight, or I want to use it, I misclick. I use Flight to catch up to the Meg, and I try to cut her off here, and then just try to cut her off at the Shack as well, but she realizes and doesn't vault, but I do get a hit here now. Now she's running away, she uses her sprint boost that she gets from being hit. I tried to cast Flight of the Damned, but apparently I misclicked and cancelled it, so I used the sphere in order to detect where she is. I can see the killer instinct, and then I can cast Flight of the Damned and just down her here. Now I go to pick her up, and while I bring her to the hook, something that you should remember as Vecna: when you cast Flight of the Damned, try to stay out of the survivor's line of sight so they don't see your skeletons coming and get hit by surprise. Good. Now I cast Flight in order to interrupt the unhook. I go after the unhooker because I don't want to tunnel, so I attack V here. I cast the sphere in order to interrupt any magic items that she has, and now I try to hit her with Flight of the Damned again, once she's halfway out of sight, but she dodges and uses this window. It's not a very strong window because it's essentially just a glorified Z-wall, but she does use it well, and she uses this pallet to her advantage too, so I break it, and I kind of let go of her in this case. I use Flight again, try to find the survivors that had been working on this generator. I see it's Talitha again, and she's close to Shack, which, as I mentioned earlier, she was playing very well. I use something that's called the standing still tag here, so I just stand still and wait for them to make a mistake, which more often than not works, and so Talitha just runs into me and gets hit. Now V just kind of durdling around here, don't really know what she's doing, so then I start chasing her as well. I try to hit her with Flight of the Damned, which fails, but doesn't really matter. She goes back to this weird Z-wall structure, and in this case I know what she's doing, so I cut her off, and I do get a hit here. So the aura read helps me try to find out where she is going. I ready Mage Hand in order to block the pallet that she's going to, but then I switch my focus to Meg because she's an easier hit, and then I try to cut her off with Flight as well. She runs into this tree and then tries to use the Z-wall, which I can tell because I have the aura read, and so I get an easy down on Meg as well, and can pick her up easily. As you see, I am facing the wall, trying to avoid flashlight saves.
just so nobody can come and use a picked up flashlight against me. Now I use flight again, going back to shack. So now here I see Lara vaulting the window. She kind of just runs into several different directions because she wasn't aware of where I was. I use the flight, but she dodges and uses the window again, which I miss. So well played by her. And then I continue this chase in Shack. Shack is usually quite a strong tile for survivors because they can use the window and killers can only fake or try to fake it. I do that here, but she really played well. She saw what I was doing, and so I didn't really have a choice but leave her here. So what I do is I try to interrupt the two that have been healing, but I get stuck on these little structures here. And so I now follow this killer instinct, which is V, and try to get a hit on her here. But she also has a very strong window, so what I do is I use this little outcrop here. She vaults back and I follow her. I try to use a cheeky Flight of the Damned, which she dodges because there's another window here as well. And so this chase goes on for a bit longer than I am comfortable with. I use Mage Hand in order to block the pallet and get a hit here. She runs back, and so this should be over quite soon. She uses the pallet to cut me off, but then runs into me and, yeah, basically just dies here. Again, I face the wall when picking her up, or I try to, and in this case it really saved my ass because the flashlight save doesn't work. There's not an angle that she can use, and so V goes on the hook. It's a second hook stage, and I destroy the pallet here just to be sure for later. Now I do cast a sphere. So I have some killer instinct on, I believe it's Lara, and I do cast Flight of the Damned as a sort of, yeah, kind of tracking mechanism, maybe getting a cheeky hit that somebody wouldn't expect. Now I use flight here in order to cut Lara off, which doesn't really work on short loops, so I try to play that loop. Lara again, not a bad survivor, but in this case I don't fall for her fake, and I hit her. She drops her item. I see the other survivor as well. Using the fog wile won't really help a lot. I block the pallet with Mage Hand again, so she doesn't get to stun me, and then she gets hit. But she uses Dead Hard, which was not expected, and very well played by her. Now I vault the window and try to get her. I can see her aura, so it shouldn't be too hard to get a hit here. She camps the pallet, so I use the sphere in order to also disable magic items and bait the vault, and I do. And so she dropped the pallet for nothing. She vaulted because she thought that I was going to use something else. And yeah, I expect the flashlight save and hit Talitha to get rid of her flashlight and to basically not get flashlight saved here. Good. So, with the survivors out of the way, I can pick up Lara. There's no way they can get a flashlight save, and I can get her on the hook easily and safely. And as you can see, now every survivor has been hooked twice, so everybody is on dead hook, and as soon as I down somebody, that person will be dead and out of the game. Now, I see an aura and I use flight to get Talitha. She tries to run away using this weird Z-wall structure and then uses Lithe to get to the shack. I disable her magic items just in case and try to cut her off. And now she tries to vault back, but it doesn't work, it's too late, so she gets hit. And now you'll have to excuse a bit of BMing here because I was really happy that I got Talitha. She was quite annoying with her teabagging and her flashlight saving, so maybe don't do that if you play the game, but in this case I couldn't resist the temptation to kind of BM her back. And now that she's out of the game, I can focus on Lara, who is revealed by friends till the end here. So let's see if we can get her. So Lara picks up a flashlight. I try to cut her off, which works. She's out of options here, gets hit, drops the flashlight. I see her aura, and so I try to cut her off using fly. I get stuck a little bit, but I can cut her off at the pallet. However, she seems to be close enough to drop it on me anyways, which is weird because usually you can body block pallets like this. But then she doesn't really have any other options as well because most of the pallets are used. She tries to vault, but this is not enough time for her to get away. So I can pick up Lara as well and get her to the basement, and essentially this is me closing out the game now. I do have to say, they played really well. They were good survivors, most of them at least. So I can definitely see myself losing this game as well if they hadn't made some mistakes. But as you've seen, I've made some mistakes myself, so that's something that happens. They do get the last generator off here, which isn't a huge problem because they have to open the exit gates first, and I can already tell where they are, and also the exit gates are quite close to each other. So I cast the sphere here to try to find them, and one runs into me for whatever reason, so I block the pallet and get the hit on her as well. And I see the other girl at the door, so I use flight in order to cut her off. And what I see here is that she has been trying to, hide in this locker. So I pull her out, and that means it's GG. We've got V on the hook, and Lara is dead on the floor. Or not dead, but at least wounded on the floor. And I can see her with friends till the end. It shows me where she should be lying. And so I kill her. I'll shut up for a second so you can enjoy the Mori. Alright, that's the game. I'll show you another game of Vecna. It was quite fun. So I'll just skip ahead to the part where I find the first survivor, and then you'll see how the rest of the game goes. I hope you enjoy.
Just Alright then, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found the last game as funny as I did. If you've got any ideas on what I could do next, please leave them in the comments. And if you're feeling generous, as always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!